Opening vaccine cooperation high on Malaysia and Thailand agenda. Unvaccinated individuals at highest risk of getting severe COVID-19. The proposed reopening of borders, vaccination certificate recognition and cooperation in vaccine research and development are among the topics up for discussions during Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob's official visit to Thailand beginning tomorrow. Malaysia's ambassador to Thailand, Datuk Joji Samuel, said Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri and his Thai counterpart, Prayut Chan-o-cha, would also discuss infrastructure project at the Malaysia-Thailand borders as well as ties and economic cooperation between the two countries. Datuk Joji said the reopening of air, land and sea borders would revitalise economic activities and intensify travel between the two countries. He also said both sides will hold further discussions to fine-tune the Air Vaccinated Travel Lane VTL and Test and Go scheme.
Tapi ini bergantung pada pihak kerajaan Malaysia untuk menentukan bila time frame tu, tapi kita jangkakan mungkin tidak lama lagi lah.
Thailand has introduced the quarantine-free test and go program for travellers, which requires them to pass 2 COVID-19 RT-PCR tests, once on the day on the arrival and the second on the 5th day. Datuk Joji said Thailand and Malaysia would also look into introducing a mechanism for mutual recognition of their vaccination certificates, adding that Thailand would also keen to cooperate with Malaysia on vaccine research and development. Since its implementation 40 years ago, the Look East policy helps Malaysia strengthen its bilateral relationship with Japan in various fields, especially in trade and investment. According to Japan's ambassador to Malaysia, Takahashi Katsuhiko, this relationship was further tightened with cooperation in new fields as both countries face global challenges during the pandemic. He added that Malaysia could benefit from the expertise and experience that Japan has in managing disasters and overcoming aging population issues.
How to tackle with aging society, for example, or how to create sustainable development. This includes climate change. Also, resilient society. I think resilient society is a really important topic because you have just suffered from the severe flooding in December. And this is an area where we can cooperate with Malaysia.
He said this during Selamat Pagi Malaysia program at Wisma Berita Angkasa Puri today. Unvaccinated individuals, regardless of age, are most at risk of suffering COVID-19 categories 4 and 5 infections and also succumbing to the disease. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah said this was evident from the Health Ministry's MOH data on COVID-19 categories 4 and 5 cases, and that's per population of 100,000 for the period 26 January to 22nd February. In a statement today, he said severe COVID-19 cases and deaths were prevalent among unvaccinated individuals during that period. According to Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham, individuals who have received the booster dose enjoyed the highest level of protection from the disease. He said that it is clear that cases of serious COVID-19 infections, which are categories 3, 4 and 5, and that were lower among booster dose recipients compared to the unvaccinated group or those who have completed their vaccination but have yet to get the booster shot. On hospital bed use for COVID-19 patients in intensive care units, the Health DG said the utilization rate in 4 states had exceeded 50% of capacity, with Kelantan at 78%, Johor 69%, Federal Territory of Kuala Lumpur 62%, and Melaka 54%. He said 27,179 new positive cases were recorded yesterday, with 99.37% or 27,007 cases in categories 1 and 2, while 172 cases or 0.63% were in categories 3 to 5. A total of 87 cases, or 7.34% of 1,186 reports of adverse events following immunization, AEFI, for the COVID-19 vaccine booster dose received as of 18 February have been classified as serious. According to National Pharmaceutical Regulatory Agency NPRA Director Dr. Roshayati Muhammad Sani, this was equivalent to 86 reports per million doses.
Sejumlah 23,453 ataupun 93% daripada AEFI yang dilaporkan adalah bagi kes-kes yang tidak serius, seperti demam, sakit pada tempat suntikan, sakit kepala, sakit otot dan keletihan. Ini adalah merupakan kesan adverse yang paling kerap dilaporkan oleh penerima vaksin. Kesan-kesan ini biasanya akan pulih dalam masa 1 ataupun 2 hari.
Dr. Roshayati said a total of 38 AEFI reports involving vaccine recipients among children aged 5 to 11 were received as of 18 February, of which 37 were non-serious, while one serious case which involved hospitalization had recovered. The effectiveness of the COVID-19 vaccine booster jab could help curb the spike of Omicron variant in the country. According to Ministry of Health Public Health expert Dr. Muhammad Fadli Khairi, the booster jab is able to help alleviating severe symptoms and even preventing death cases, proven during the emergence of the Delta variant last year.
Varian Omicron ni dia beza dengan Delta sebab mutasi, sebab dia ada beberapa mutasi daripada susunan genetik dia. Dia menyebabkan dia lagi mudah tersebar, misalnya sebab tu kes dia lagi tinggi. Tapi dari segi simptom, dari segi gejala sendiri, kalau mereka dah menerima vaksinasi, kalau mereka dah menerima booster, maka gejala dia kurang teruk berbanding mereka yang langsung tidak menerima vaksinasi ataupun mereka yang tidak menerima booster.
Speaking to reporters after the Selamat Pagi Malaysia program at Wisma Berita Angkasa Puri today, the public health expert said those who are still skeptical to take booster jab can conduct health examination and consult their medical officer. He added that each vaccine will have some side effects, but stressed that it is effective in curbing COVID-19. Perikatan Nasional PN Chairman Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin has asked the Election Commission EC to reconsider the Standard Operating Procedures SOP set for the Johor State election campaign period. Tan Sri Muhyiddin, who is also a Bersatu President, believes that despite having relaxations, the SOP was still too strict as well as not so practical. Speaking to reporters after attending a meeting and greet session with the Felda type Andak community in Kulai, Tan Sri Muhyiddin said the SOP may have been relaxed a little but felt they were still inadequate as the 14-day campaign period was not long enough to cover many areas.
Ini langkah-langkah yang telah diperkenalkan ni macam ada sedikit kelonggaran tapi tak memadai. Kerana tempoh kempen tak panjang. 2 minggu nak perkenalkan calon orang tak kenal. Jadi kita nak minta supaya dipertimbangkan semula.
According to SOP issued by the EC, Terma's physical campaigning and house-to-house visits are not allowed during the Johor election campaign. Lesnar claims lover blackmailed him into buying $10 million home. "17 areas have been identified as hotspots for activities involving gambling and gangsterism in Johor. Johor Police Chief Datuk Kamaru Zaman Mamat said these are identified places based on the aspects of political interest, community and secret societies activities. Datuk Kamaruzaman said the police had been able to reduce the crime rate in these areas and take action under the Security Offences Special Measures Act 2012 or SOSMA.
Apa yang kita dapati pada masa sekarang ni, walaupun ada kumpulan-kumpulan kongsi gelap, tapi mereka dah tak aktif. Kita dah dapat neutralize, kita dah dapat mengurangkan aktiviti mereka dengan mengambil tindakan-tindakan.
The ongoing 1MDB trial of disgraced Goldman Sachs banker Roger Ng in a U.S. federal court revealed titillating details and the extent of the misappropriated money that followed out from Malaysian Sovereign Wealth Fund 1MDB. Now moving on to the next news. The day was not over as Lesnar testified that ex-Goldman chief Lloyd Blankfein met in 2009 with then Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Tun Razak ahead of $6.5 billion in bond deals for the country's wealth fund, and that the meeting came with an agenda. According to Lesnar, in return for the lucrative business, Goldman was to get Datuk Seri Najib's 3 children jobs at the bank. Joe Low loot billions of dollars from the Malaysian fund. Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Najib Razak today refuted the testimony by Lesnar in a Facebook post, saying that none of his children were offered job at Goldman Sachs. According to the former Prime Minister, Lesnar had introduced his daughter Noriana Najwa Najib to apply for a job at TPG Capital in Hong Kong that is linked to Goldman Sachs, admitting that she later worked at the company in a junior position for 1 year. He said that the matter was also public knowledge and that Noriana had served as an investor relations professional. The ongoing 1MDB trial of disgraced Goldman Sachs banker Roger Ng in a U.S. federal court revealed titillating details and the extent of the misappropriated money that followed out from Malaysian Sovereign Wealth Fund 1MDB. In yesterday's hearing, prosecution witness Tim Lesnar admitted to having used money he received from 1MDB to buy $10 million house in London for a media chief executive officer whom he had an affair with. Asked by prosecutor Drew Roll about his extramarital affairs, Lesnar, 52, cited several, including one with Datuk Rohana Rozhan, the former CEO of media company Astro Malaysia Holdings Berhad. According to the Bloomberg News report, Lesnar was in a romantic relationship with Rosanna from 2003 to 2013. Roll asked Lesnar whether he had ever given Rosanna any money he received from his 1MDB work. Lesnar said he had, and that he bought her the $10 million home in London in 2013 after she threatened to expose his involvement with 1MDB. This was the second time that Lesnar took to the stand in this trial, with the first being on 17 February, where he is cooperating with the US government's investigation after pleading guilty in 2018 to similar crimes. The defence in a trial of Datin Sri Rosmah Mansor, who faces charges involving a hybrid solar project for rural schools in Sarawak, closed its case today after calling 2 witnesses. High Court Judge Muhammad Zaini Mazlan set 5th April to hear oral submissions from both parties after counsel Datuk Jagjit Singh, representing Datin Sri Rosmah, told the court that the defence has closed its case. The judge also fixed 9 March for the prosecution to file written submissions and 30th March of Jepat Holdings Sdn Berhad Saidi Abang Samsudin. In our foreign segment, Russia strengthens armed forces amid talk of diplomacy. Cambodia today started vaccinating children as young as 3 years old against COVID-19, making it one of the first countries to cover the under 5 age group in a push to cover its entire population of 16 million. The inoculation drive for toddlers started in the capital city Phnom Penh. Hundreds of people queued outside clinics where medical staff in personal protection gear administered the vaccines to teary-eyed or wailing children.
បាទដើម្បីការពារជំងឺ Covid បងចូលរួមបងប្អូនគ្នាអរគុណរដ្ឋាភិបាលដែលបានផ្ដល់វ៉ាក់សាំងជូនកុមារអាយុ 3 ឆ្នាំដល់ 5 ឆ្នាំ
ដើម្បីការពារជំងឺ Covid-19 ហើយបង្កកុំឲ្យឆ្លងអញ្ចឹងណាចង់ឲ្យអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាដើម្បីបង្ការជំងឺ Covid-19 សូមមកចាក់វ៉ាក់សាំងទាំងអស់គ្នា
The Southeast Asian country has vaccinated over 90% of its population, among the highest rates in the region, according to the Our Role in Data website, and in January started rolling out a fourth dose for high-risk groups. Overall, there have been 3,024 deaths and more than 127,000 infections in Cambodia. Coming up in sports, Pangon appoints Alvarasan as local assistant coach. Harimau Malaya's new head coach, Kim Pangon, today confirmed that he has picked Sarawak United FC head coach E. Alvarasan to be his local assistant coach of the national football squad. The South Korean said Alvarasan met the criteria he needed, a coach who is familiar with the players and possesses vast experience in the domestic scene.
Myself, also I had an interview with him, then I can feel that he has been very good experience and very full commitment for the Malaysia national team. I believe Ella can help me to develop a Malaysia national team up to next level.
Meanwhile, Alvarasan, who is going to get involved in the FAM setup for the first time, considers the opportunity as a huge honor and a national duty. Alvarasan, 60, who holds the Asian Football Confederation AFC Pro license, has been in charge of Sarawak United since February 2020 and steered the Golden Hornbills to gain Super League promotion by finishing runners-up to Negeri Sembilan in the 2021 Premier League. That concludes this evening's news at 10. In our top story, border reopening vaccine cooperation high on Malaysia and Thailand agenda. Join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. I'm Shuhaida Arifin. Stay tuned to Berita RTM and have a pleasant evening.